Alright, this is a little instructional video on how to connect your 6-button arcade stick to your Jamma Supergun. This is something I couldn't really work out, and I couldn't find anything on the internet how to do it. Believe it, I found sort of very vague instructions, and I got stuck on doing this for months, and I worked it out yesterday by fluke, really. It might seem obvious to some people, this stuff, but I know I was stuck on it, so maybe someone else might have got stuck on it as well. So here we go. Right, things you're gonna need. So I'll work back. I'm just gonna go through this quickly. Jamma Supergun, right, with this terminal block on it. Something to house the buttons. Obviously, a Jamma board of some description. This is Street Fighter 2. The reason I'm showing this is because you need 6 buttons to play it. For Street Fighter 2, this is a kick harness. It's called a kick harness because it's for the kick buttons. You need this. A Jamma loom. This is for the wiring. This is a ground wire. I think you might need 2, because just to keep, if you want to do 2 controllers, just keep them both separate. Those are the buttons. That's just basically a picture I got to show the prongs a bit easier on it. A PC power supply. The buttons, you buy all this on eBay. And joysticks, obviously. And a SCART cable. Now that is everything you need. Also, a pair of scissors and a screwdriver. And that's it. Now what you have to do, so you've bought all this stuff. I'm envisioning you sitting there with all this crap in front of you, and you're thinking, right, can I get this to work? You can. Just listen to me. I'll tell you how to do it. Right, this here, your Jamma loom. What you want to do, get your scissors. This bit here connects to your Jamma game. This is basically for an arcade machine, but you've got a Supergun that you want to connect to your TV. So you want to cut this bit off. This I promise there's no soldering or nothing, no crap like that involved. Cut this connector off the end, so you're just left with all these lovely wires. That's the first thing you want to do. Second thing you want to do, get your Supergun, and you want to connect all these wires that you just cut off to this terminal block. Now you think, well, how the fuck am I going to do that? Well, it's got screws on it. This is where you get your screwdriver. You unscrew, make all these loose, and what you want to do with the ends of each one of your wires is strip them to expose the metal. Not too much, just enough for a little bit to be exposed. And each wire has to go in a different one of these. You don't need all of them. If you're playing Street Fighter, all you need is start, up, down, left, right, ground, button 1, 2 and 3. So you've only actually got to do 9, 18 if you're doing 2 players. If you're only on your own, you don't give a fuck about playing 2 player of anyone. Well, Street Fighter really is for 2 players, isn't it? But you can just connect player 1. Do 9 buttons. Now once you've exposed your wire, you put it underneath each one of these screw holes and tighten them back up so that the wire doesn't come out and it's tight in there. Now here's the bit that got me. The ground wire. The fucking ground wire. On each one of your buttons there's 2 prongs. One prong goes to the button you want it to be. So say you want it to be start. All these are labelled, by the way. If you're thinking, how do I know which button to go? Each one's labelled with button 1, 2, 3, 4, right, down, up, left, and start. So you can't get confused. So connect the one wire to the button you want it to go to. And it needs 2 wires. The second wire goes to the ground cable. Now you're thinking, as I was, how are you going to connect each button when there's so many buttons to one ground cable? I was like, I don't know, and I just stopped and just couldn't go any further. That's why you need this. I think you get one of these with the loom anyway, but you can buy a separate one as well if it doesn't have it or whatever. This has got lots of connectors and only one end. The one end that's just like a wire you strip and put in under the bit that's marked ground, and each one of these ends has to go to a different button. That's why it's got so many. Your buttons won't work without this ground cable. Like I said, there's no soldering involved with this. There's, nothing too complicated, but you just got to connect the wire end to this terminal and the other end, which is so obvious, to the buttons. Now, about your kick harness that you connected to Street Fighter 2. That end goes to the Jamma board, that end goes to this, to that bit there, look. The other end is all for your kick buttons, for player 1 and 2. It's also got a ground wire, this has got a ground wire, but you don't need to connect the ground wire of this, as long as you've got this connected to that. So you only need one ground wire for all the kick buttons, all the player 1 and 2 buttons. Now, you're probably thinking it's quite complicated to work out which button's which, but obviously when you connect the game, you've already it's all labelled here, but when you connect the game, if you've done any of them wrong, they'll still work, they'll just be wrong, so just switch them round. Now, with the buttons here, you want to house them somehow, don't you? Now you can buy one of these on eBay very cheap, just a housing thing, a bit of plastic with some holes in it basically, and this will house all the buttons. The buttons just fit in the top here. You don't need any like screws or fixings. You just place them in the top and connect them underneath. The only thing, what bit you need some screws for is the joystick, but only 4, and anything will do. Any sort of bolts or anything of that nature will fix your joystick on. What else have I got to mention here? How long is the video so far? 9 minutes, that's okay. Anything I haven't mentioned? Also, if you want to, what I didn't buy this housing thing. I used a PC arcade stick, and I just took the wires out of that and wired it up with this and the wires from the Jamma harness instead. So you don't even really need to get this if you've already got a couple of arcade sticks lying about. Most of them, the modern ones, use these kind of buttons anyway, as long as it's not like a Super Nintendo thing or something. Now, what else do you need? Just to go through a few of the really obvious things. for people who really don't know anything, this Supergun, this module here, you will need power. Connects to any PC power supply, which you can get on Amazon or whatever. It looks like this. You can buy them cheap, you can buy them dear, buy whatever one you want. They all work. SCART cable goes to your TV, the SCART connector. These here are joysticks. If you're not bothered about Street Fighter and the 6 buttons, and you don't care about using a real joystick, you can connect any sort of controller. Not any. Well, some of these Superguns will use Neo Geo connectors. Some will use Mega Drive. The one I got does Neo Geo, but you won't need that if you're using the arcade buttons. But you can do that if you do. But it will only work with your 4 buttons. That's the problem with it. And also, I prefer, if I'm playing arcade games, I want to use an arcade stick. I don't want to use a fucking Mega Drive controller, you know? I don't even really... I know the Neo Geo controller is an arcade stick. But, yeah, that's okay, I guess. But like I said, it's only got 4 buttons. And... I mean, the reason the 6 button thing's a big deal is because a lot of people want to play Street Fighter. It's one of the best arcade games. So you want the 6 buttons, don't really. What else do I want to say about this bloody thing? I mean, I think I've covered it. I think the last thing I'll say is, if you've got any questions, just leave them in the comments. If you're stuck on anything... Because I've got this to work, so I can... Anything you're stuck on with it, I can sort of explain a bit better. What I will say about these Superguns, you get some shit ones and some good ones. This has got everything on it. If I were you, I'd buy one with everything on it, just in case you need anything in the future. What this has got, which some don't have, is stuff to connect to like external speakers, which I prefer, rather than the SCART speakers. So you might, I say most people probably want that these days. What else has it got? I mean, it's got everything on this. Yeah, that'll do really. Like I say, if you've got any questions, just leave it in the comments, and I will get back to you unless you're watching this in years to come, and I might not, but maybe someone else in the comments will be able to help you with something. What I will say as well, if you're instructing anything, giving someone instructions on anything that you find obvious, don't be an idiot about it or a dickish about it. This is why I'm making this video, because the instructions I found is just someone being a fucking dick about it. You know, these fucking super geeks are. So don't think anything's if you're watching this video and thinking, yeah, I know all this, well, this video is not for you. This is for someone that doesn't know all of this, because I didn't, and I found it very hard to find decent instructions on it. A lot of people, they're not experts. So yeah, like I said, don't be a fucking ass about it, about giving someone instructions on like anything to do with electronics or games or whatever. But there we go, video done.